A teenager is dead, kidnapped and killed on the way to a sleepover. Now, two other teens have been arrested in connection with her murder, and this case has eerie similarities to another infamous case of friend-on-friend violence. We are breaking down this very chilling story with attorney Matt Hinson. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, we're going to do something a little different. We focus so much on Sidebar and all the bad stuff that's happening in America. Well, as you'll see, crime spans across borders. So with that, we want to go across the Atlantic Ocean to Sweden. 14-year-old Emilia Sjoberg was found dead in the southern part of the country in a town called Landskrona last week. According to Swedish media, Emilia was invited to a sleepover with two of her friends, who then supposedly lured her to an industrial site near a train station where they allegedly killed her. The chief investigator said that Emilia's body showed signs of severe violence. However, it should be noted that Emilia's cause of death has not been revealed at this time. Her body was found on July 23rd, with police believing she was killed sometime on the 21st or 22nd. On July 24th, a 15-year-old girl was arrested in connection with the apparent kidnapping and homicide, and a second 15-year-old girl was taken into custody the day after that. Now, one of the girls allegedly confessed to police that she was involved in this murder. The girl's solicitor, or attorney, confirmed to local media that her client had spoken to police, and the prosecutor added that both girls had made, quote, certain concessions to investigators. So as this is still fresh and we're trying to understand what happened, I want to bring in attorney Matt Hinson to talk about this. So as Matt has previously said, and as we've talked about here on Sidebar, Matt represented the family of 13-year-old Tristan Bailey, who was murdered by her classmate in a really, really horrific story. Matt, first, thanks so much for coming on. What is your reaction to another case like this where you have a young victim and here maybe allegedly being killed by her young classmates?
It's tragic. It is still shocking. If it's not shocking, we have a problem, that it doesn't shock you. But it's certainly just an absolute tragedy for the folks in that community, as well as all in Europe, as we saw last night, and what happened in Southport, England, with another situation of a 17-year-old going into a dance academy. It's just a horrible pattern that we're seeing, not just in the United States, but unfortunately in Europe as well.
So I want to give a little backstory here, because according to Emilia's mother, Anna, Emilia had been in and out of group homes over the years because Anna herself seemingly struggled with abusive relationships. Emilia had recently returned home to stay with her mom. They even had plans to order furniture and decorate Emilia's room. Now, Anna, who had Emilia when she was 19, she told local news outlets, "I cannot accept that she is dead. We are in shock. Every time it rings, I double check if it's her. I am very much in denial. We haven't accepted it yet. We won't accept it until we see her." Loved ones say they haven't been able to see Emilia's body yet, and they hope to this week. Police told the family that they had identified this victim as Emilia, but they were still waiting on DNA tests and dental records analysis to confirm that it is in fact her. Matt, that feeling for the family, they never recover from something like this, right? What are the emotions they are going through?
I think they're going through the stages of grief that that anyone deals with when they lose someone, but there's no pain like kid pain. And I think that families go through this, only they can understand what it's like. Only they can kind of understand the process of losing a child and how to recover from that. And I don't think that you ever do fully recover. I don't think any child ever fully recovers. I think what happens is, or any parent fully recovers from the death of a child. I think that what happens is they learn to move on and take the next step forward each day. And I think that's something that they're going to have to, as time goes on, deal with. And hopefully they'll get some counseling and some assistance in that process.
I always say it's a privilege of ours to be able to bring you these stories, and it is. And the reason we're able to do that is because of the support we get from our sponsors. And I want to call out one right now, Upside. So Upside is a free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, dining. So when I pump my gas, I'm not a diva over here, I pump my gas. Shocker. When I do, I can use the free Upside app. I mean, why not get cash back when you fill up your tank? And yes, this is actual real cash back. No confusing rewards or points or credits, just actual money you can transfer straight to your bank account. So once you have the app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside, you pay as usual using a debit or credit card, and you follow the steps in the app and you get paid. Now, as you saw me just do, you can use Upside at places like Shell, Exxon Mobil, 7-Eleven, Sunoco. Hey, how about restaurants? Chipotle, Papa John's, Dairy Queen, Domino's, KFC, Taco Bell. That's just to name a few, by the way. So to find out how much you can earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen and use our promo code Sidebar and you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's promo code Sidebar for an extra 25 cents back on your first gallon of gas. Do you recommend, and obviously the laws are different in Europe, but do you recommend that someone retain an attorney? As we talked about this last time, to have a legal liaison between them and law enforcement during this process?
It's certainly helpful to have an attorney, especially someone that's familiar with the process, someone that can help. Part of the Tristan Bailey Foundation is to help with victim advocacy. And we work with folks that have lost children and try to help them with not just the prosecution process, but also the media and in a high profile case like this, kind of understanding how the media is going to interact with them as well.
Let's talk about the suspects here, because it's believed that Emilia had met at least one of the suspects in the group home that she was most recently staying in. Emilia's mom says that the motive for the murder was maybe a fight over an insult that was possibly related to a boy. I mean, out of all things, this is what we're talking about. One of the suspects reportedly told police that there had been no plans to kill Emilia and that a fight got out of hand. But the thing with that is, the girls reportedly stole duct tape and a knife, which seems to point to preparation and planning for the attack, premeditation, as we talk about. Right. And in a twist that's all too common these days, the girls allegedly filmed part of the attack, showing one of the suspects beating Emilia. One of the teens is in police custody. The other was apparently turned over to social services. So, Matt, this idea of why this happens, right? It's pretty sickening to talk about teen-on-teen violence, but the idea of, oh, this was a fight that got out of hand versus, no, this was a plot to kill. What's your take on this?
I think that we get too focused on the motive of each individual case. Obviously, that's important to the victim and the victim's families and the community. But as a larger society, I think we need to look at why this continues to happen. What are the means to why this end continues to occur? What's happening with our children where they are desensitized to the level in which they think it's okay to do and take these actions? Because I think, just like we talked about last time, there is certainly an increase in what we're seeing, not just in the United States, but in the world, of these types of acts happening from younger people. We need to figure out why, and we need to attack that. Very importantly, we need to work on that with our younger people.
And by the way, from a legal point of view, in the majority of cases that I've seen where you have a young perpetrator, they are not advanced enough to cover it up. They're not advanced enough to avoid detection. They get arrested, and most of the time they get not only prosecuted, they get convicted unless they take some sort of deal. I don't see, and look, I don't know the laws in Sweden, but what I would suggest is I don't see how you can really mount a defense unless it's some sort of mental health defense. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but don't you see that a lot of these cases, that it's, while trying to understand the motive is one thing, proving who did it and understanding what happened is relatively straightforward when you have these youth crimes, right?
It usually happens because their brain is not developed enough to plan out a sophisticated crime in the majority of cases. I think that's a very important point to make, because we generally look at the law and the punishment for a violation of law as a deterrent to breaking the law. These children, it appears, don't quite understand or comprehend or are able to get the idea that there's a punishment behind this. I think a lot of times they think they're going to get away with it. They plan it out. They think they're going to. But I think we need to stop looking at the law as a deterrent in these types of situations for children. And we need to be looking more at how are we raising our children? How are we educating them? what are we allowing them to have access to that may be causing these types of lack of sensitivity to human life.
And as far as I talk about the idea of the sloppiness of it, right? I think that's a fair way to say it, right? Sloppiness that sometimes you see in these kinds of cases. As far as the evidence that was found at the crime scene, investigators found a knife nearby. Police haven't said if it was the murder weapon, but then another knife was seized, but it's unclear where that was found. Police also searched the harbor next to the industrial site and found a bag with Emilia's bank cards and other belongings in the water. So again, if you were trying to dispose of these materials, again, not great. But we talk about the children here, or the minors, but sometimes they have help. And there has been a report that an adult is being questioned in connection with this case, but they haven't been arrested, they haven't been detained. Police didn't release any more information about who they are. But Matt, again, not sure what this adult did or did not do, but as you saw in Tristan's case with Aiden Fucci, sometimes an adult will come in to cover up a crime, right?
And it's not uncommon for adults, particularly parents or others that are involved in a minor's life, to be interviewed by police. So I think it is important that we look at those types of reports to say, it doesn't mean the adult did anything wrong. It could just be a part of the interview process to get to the bottom line of the crime. But you're correct. There are times where adults get involved and they are either assisting before or after. Generally, it's after the fact, someone trying to cover up a crime. And it's unfortunate. That's another thing that we could probably get into and talk about for quite a while.
Well, it happened in Aiden Fucci's case.
Right, where Aiden's mother was videotaped in her home by home security washing jeans that had blood on them, and was washing the blood out. And she was charged, and ultimately there was a deal that was reached, and she's now served her time in terms of her jail time and is out on probation. But it happens. It does, unfortunately.
By the way, talking about comparisons of this case to other ones, when we decided to cover this story, it reminded me, maybe it's going to remind you all there, of this case here in the United States, the Slender Man stabbing. So 10 years ago, 12-year-old Peyton Lautner was playing hide and seek in a park in Waukesha, Wisconsin with two classmates, Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser, again, 12 years old. Geyser stabbed Peyton 19 times while Weier urged her on. They left her for dead in the woods, but Peyton was able to miraculously survive. She crawled to safety, and she flagged down a cyclist who called 911.
Came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Okay.
Sir, you still there?
Yes.
Hi, sir. So are you with this 12-year-old female?
Yes, she says she's having trouble breathing. She said she was stabbed multiple times.
And when police confronted Geyser and Weier, they admitted to attacking Peyton Lautner, saying they did it to appease Slender Man. This is a fictional character that was featured on various websites and stories online. They believed if they failed their mission, their families would be killed. We did a whole prime crime on that as well. Now, both girls pleaded not guilty to mental illness. They ended up taking plea deals to avoid regular prison, instead being remanded to mental health institutions. Anissa Weier got 25 years. Morgan Geyser got 40 years. Weier was granted conditional release in 2021, was allowed to live with her father. She's required to undergo outpatient psychiatric treatment. In 2020, Morgan Geyser petitioned to be retried as a juvenile. That was denied. Her attorney took her petition to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. They declined to hear the appeal. And in January of this year, Geyser petitioned the court for release, wanting the same setup that Weier had, but the request was denied in April. So, Matt, even though we talk about how the laws are different here than they would be in Sweden, mental illness, particularly when you're dealing with young people like this, that's something that can't be ignored, right?
It can't. I mean, a lot of these crimes that we see, once the minor is arrested, we find out that they suffer from some type of mental illness, whether it's some form of sociopathy, whether it's some form of depression or anxiety, and a lot of those are comorbid together. We do learn that majority of the time there's some type of mental illness involved here.
Really, really heartbreaking situation. We'll see what happens. But again, just an eerie case on the other side of the world, and crime, as I said, crosses borders. I wish we didn't see it, but unfortunately we do. Matt Hinson, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time, and also send our best to the Bailey family as always.
Absolutely. And they said it's to send their best to you as well as your listeners today. I spoke with them this morning. So.
Oh, that's so kind, Matt. Thank you so much again. Really appreciate it. All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.